At 7:30 last night, I had 14 players seated. Table 1 was already closed because the room was way too hot. And somehow, before the night was over, 49 players were jammed into Topsail Billiards. I thought it would be dead. Instead, the room exploded. Lovely day, poker enthusiast. Welcome to Sal's Scoop. Yesterday afternoon, Mike's texted me, "Can you TD tonight?" And without even thinking about it, I said yes. Then about 30 seconds later, I started thinking about it. And I thought, oh no, it is way too hot today. The last 4 or 5 Friday nights have only brought 30 to 35 players. Yesterday was one of the nicest Fridays we have had all summer. People had every reason in the world to be outside. So naturally, I figured the poker room would be quiet. I even said to Joanne, "You watch, there'll be 50 to 60 people there tonight though, and I'll be cooked alive in that little corner of Topsail Billiards." Sometimes I hate it when I know the room wasn't that well. Oh, you knew the room, did ya? You predicted somewhere between 30 people not showing up and 60 people arriving? That is not a prediction, Phil. That is weather forecasting in Newfoundland. There may be sun, there may be rain, there may be 49 poker players arriving all at once with rebuy money. And you were worried about the heat? Boy, you were TDing a Friday frenzy. That corner was going to be hotter than a $2 kettle with the lid taped shut. Table 1 never stood a chance. When I walked in, Tina was already sorting the chips. I told her we were not using table 1. It was too hot over there already. At 7:30, I had everybody seated. I had the names posted. And there were 14 players. 14. For a few minutes it looked exactly like I expected. A slow summer Friday. Then the lineup started. One person came in, then another, then 3 more, then another group. And before you knew it, we had 49 players jammed into that room. 49 players. 49 rebuys. And a prize pool of $4,075. The room went from looking half asleep to looking like somebody had announced free air conditioning at the final table. 14 players at 7:30, then 49 players. That was not late registration. That was a civilian evacuation in the poker room. 14 is sorting chips thinking she has a quiet little evening coming. Then suddenly she needs enough chips to reopen the Newfoundland mint. And there is Phil standing there in the corner sweating through this shirt, telling everybody, "I knew this would happen." You did not know anything. You guessed it as a joke and then got punished for being right. That is what karma looked like before Mike Walsh got involved. And by the way, with the move getting closer and season 7 winding down, you're trying to pack things away. Meanwhile, Sal's room keeps unpacking more poker players. Good luck with that, old man. The cards were falling in my favor too. I was building chips. Things were going well. Then this hand happened. I limped from early position with ace-king. There were 1 or 2 more limpers behind me. Then it gets to Mike Walsh. Mike open jams his entire stack. 83,000, roughly 28 big blinds. And I immediately start thinking about all the times I've watched Mike make the exact kind of aggressive move. Because a genuinely strong hand usually does not want to blast everybody out of the pot. A strong hand wants action. This looked like Mike saying, "There's dead money out there. Nobody wants to call 28 big blinds. Let's take it." I trusted the read. I threw the call chip in. And I was right. Mike turned over 10-6 offsuit. I showed him my ace-king. 10-6 offsuit. 28 big blinds. Straight into the middle. That is not a poker hand. That is 2 numbers Mike found loose in his pocket. But you made the right read. You made the right call. And then the poker gods leaned over the table and said, "Wonderful work, Phil. Excellent analysis. Here is your punishment." 7, 4, 6 on the flop. A 4 on the turn and an 8 on the river. Mike gets the full double. And you're left sitting there with ace high and a university degree and being correct for no reason. That is poker, boy. Sometimes the game gives you a gold star, then runs over your lunchbox. Mike collects the chips and says, "Put that on the scoop, Phil, especially when I win this tonight." And I said, "Definitely not." It was more back and forth, a few laughs, the usual nonsense. But it was not long after that, Mike opened from early position to 19,000. I looked down at 2 kings, and the first thing I said to myself was, slow down, we have him now. So I put on the little act, how much did he make it? I counted out the chips, I smooth called. The flop came all low cards, something like 3, 5, 7. Mike C-bet, I moved all in. Mike called, I showed him the kings, and Mike said, that's a nice hand, boy, I've only got Johnny's. The board ran out clean, and Mike Walsh was eliminated.
Johnny's jacks. Poor Johnny is not even in the hand, and somehow his cards are being blamed for the elimination. That is veteran poker playing accounting right there. Never lose with your own jacks. Borrow somebody else's. Then, Bonnie from Union Street sees Mike walking away and says, vengeance is nice, right? And you said yes. Bonnie says karma is real. And suddenly the courtroom is in session. Judge Bonnie presiding, Closet Phil representing the crown, Mike Walsh sentenced to listening to his own story on Sal Scoop. No possibility of parole. No respect either. Because Mike is the Rodney Dangerfield of Newfoundland poker, and he cannot get no respect. But apparently he can get an entire segment.
Big shout out to Bonnie and Cease from Union Street Games in Corner Brook. They were in St. John's for a few days, and naturally they had to come play at the club. It was great seeing them and meeting them. And yes, Mike, Mr. Rodney Dangerfield of Newfoundland poker, you got your story on the scoop after all, old man. Just not quite the ending you requested. The room stayed electric all night. We did not reach the final table until after midnight. Chad Wheeler had already announced there would be no chop. He was taking the Raymond McDonald approach. Play it out. Go all the way. No deals. Unfortunately, Chad was eliminated in 9th place. So the official no chop representative was no longer present when the negotiations began.
That is the weakness in the no chop platform, boy. You need to remain in the tournament to enforce it. Chad stood up like Raymond McDonald and declared no chop, then finished 9th and left 7 people behind thinking, well, that policy appears to have expired. At 12:30 in the morning, everybody suddenly remembered they had jobs. Funny how employment becomes important once there is $580 guaranteed. At 10:30 they are warriors. At midnight they have responsibilities. At 12:30, well, I have to be up in the morning. Where do I sign?
When it got down to 7 players, we agreed to the deal. Devon, Trevor, Nick, Chris, Mark, Dylan, and me. $580 each. It was late. People had work in the morning, and after 5 long hours like that inside that oven, 12:30 felt late enough. But the money is almost secondary to what the room felt like. I expected a quiet night. I genuinely thought the weather might kill the game. Instead, we got 49 players, 49 rebuys, laughter, banter, visitors from Corner Brook, a $4,000 prize pool, and one of those nights where the room reminds you that if it has a mind on its own. I'm 10 episodes away from the end of season 7. The move is getting closer. Things are starting to feel temporary around here, especially in here. Then the club gives us a night like that, just to remind me that none of this feels finished yet.
There it is. That is the real story. Not that you won $580. Not that Mike played 10-6 like it was pocket aces with a letter of recommendation. Not even that table 1 was declared medically unfit for service. The real story is that you thought the night would be quiet and the community said no. People kept arriving, the room kept filling, the chips kept moving, the jokes kept flying. That is why these nights matter more now. You know things are changing. You know this is the version of the scoop is getting closer to the end. And then 49 people pile into that room like nobody told them the chapter was almost over. Hard to pack up a memory while it's still happening, boy.
Thursday night at Sal's room was busy too. 22 players showed up, and that tournament ended in a 4-way chop. Online Thursday, the daily Freebuy had 19 entries. Denman and Dumpster took the tickets. 4 cards, bad decisions, had 23 entries. Rylan finished 3rd for $15.10. Then 77 GB and No Deals Dalton made a deal for $23 and change. Phil's Deep Stack Thrill had 29 entries. No ID finished 3rd for $21.15. Trainer took 2nd for $28.21. Rylan scooped $37.64 for the win.
Rylan had a fine little Thursday. 3rd in the PLO, then 1st in Deep Stack Thrills. He made money using 4 cards, then he made more money when he took 2 of them away. That is versatility. Dumpster took another ticket. No Deals Dalton made another deal. And No ID finished 3rd. The online names are starting to sound less like poker players and more like suspects from a very poorly organised heist. Officer, the money was last seen with Dumpster, No ID, and a man insisting there would be no deals. Good luck solving that one.
Friday night online, the daily Freebuy had 18 entries. Samara and Dumpster took the tickets. The Friday night fight had 26 entries. Rylan finished 3rd for $28.45. No Deals Dalton took 2nd for $37.94. And Dumpster scooped $50.61 for the win. Phil's Deep Stack Thrills had 24 entries. Wild Hog finished 3rd for $17.51. All In 10 Jack took 2nd for $23.55. And Rylan completed another strong night by winning $31.14. So while 49 people were melting inside Topsail Billiards, the online crew were sitting home comfortably making money without sticking to their chairs.
That is the real online advantage. Not tracking software, not hand histories, air conditioning. The live players are down there peeling themselves off the furniture while Rylan is home winning tournaments in shorts with a fan pointed directly at him. Dumpster had himself a night too. A ticket in the Freebuy, then the Friday night fight win. That man did not take out the garbage. He took out the whole tournament. And No Deals Dalton made a deal again. At this stage, the username is false advertising. That is like calling yourself No Rebuys Phil. Nobody would believe it.
Tonight, live at Sal's Room at 7:30, it is Sensational Saturday. It's our $60 buy-in with $40 rebuys for 1 hour and a $20 add-on. Online today begins at 4 p.m. with the daily Freebuy. 6 p.m. is SummerSlam Step 2. 8 p.m. is the 550 and 850 Step 2s. 8:30 the Flop and Pop game. 9 p.m. Phil's Deep Stack Thrills and SummerSlam Step 3. Then 10 p.m. Rylan's JamSmashCrash. After last night, I'm not predicting how many players are coming. The room has made it very clear that it does not require my opinion.
Good. Retire from forecasting. You said the heat would keep everybody away. Then 49 people arrived carrying money and bad decisions. Tonight, just open the doors, turn on the clock, keep table 1 under medical observation, and let Sensational Saturday decide what it wants to be. Because the room does not care about the weather, it does not care about predictions, and it certainly does not care that Phil St. Croix thought it would be dead. The room looked at him and said, "Hold my rebuy."
Last night reminded me of something. Quiet weeks can fool you. Weather can fool you. Recent numbers can fool you. But a community is not a spreadsheet. People decide when they want to show up. And when they do, everything changes quickly. At 7:30, there were 14 names posted. By the end of the night, 49 players had turned a hot little corner of Topsail Billiards in one of the best Friday nights we have had in weeks. I thought it would be dead. I was wrong. And I've never been happier to sweat through a prediction. Thanks for watching. See you on the felt, and run good, you legend.